Hey guys, Dark here. Today, we're going to start our deep dive into the regions for leagues. With the start date approaching quickly, I want to give a chance for people to start thinking and theory crafting their paths. And for the first video of this mini series, what better regions to start out with than our starter regions of Misthalin and Karamja? They'll both play integral parts in the initial count progression and task rush to unlock early relics, regions, and presumably combat masteries, so I feel it best to go from here. Now, before we get into the regions, let's really quickly talk about some teasers and leaks that have come through. I do plan on touching on these at the start of early leagues videos, as the JMods taunt us with more and more in the Discord. So here's what we've learned new so far. More grindy tasks like 2000 monkey laps and 4000 chompy kills have been removed. Raid mega rares will still be best in slot, but the echo bosses that do drop weapons will be just a tier below. The weapons will have some quirks to them, but better than virtually everything else in the game. The other echoes will drop stat based equipment. We will likely know what League's first records can be obtained early. A Discord user posted a question to Mod Arcane who said it was a good suggestion and could make it happen. Multiple purples at the theater and at tombs are only on the harder mode and 500 plus invocation raids, respectively. If any one person would have rolled a purple, then all players will receive a purple, and they can all be different. This is the reasoning for reducing the boosted drop rate multiplier on the harder mode and advanced invocation raids from 3 times to 2 times. A deathless hard mode Tob should still be a 100% purple chance, and drop rates otherwise will always be based off of party leader rates. With that out of the way, let's get into talking regions. The Kingdom of Misthalin is likely the most well known area in the game. New players rarely get far outside of this area, and veteran players have been in and out of this region for decades now. More so, Misthalin has been our starting region for the last 4 leagues. So what's here and what's different from before? Well, let's cover what's not new. The Kingdom of Misthalin covers this region of the game map. This includes the towns of Lumbridge, Varrock, Edgeville, and Draenor and Barbarian villages. You can also access the Goblin City of Dorgish Khan and the Moon City of Zanaris. The dig site is also accessible, as well as Foss Island and the Isle of Souls. Lastly, while Lithgren Vault and access to Adamant and Rune Dragons is placed in the Misthalin region, it does require unlocking from Nick to access. This region is also host to various bosses and important NPCs. One of the more important NPCs for a league is the League's Tutor, who will provide you with any special items or gear you've unlocked along your journey, such as the Drummond Staff or relic items like the Banker's Note or the Fairy Mushroom. You can also find 799 capes of accomplishment that are buyable in Misthalin: construction, cooking, defense, farming, prayer, runecraft, and woodcutting. Other important NPCs are the Slayer Masters. Misthalin has the most masters available with 3: Spria in Draenor Village, Vanaka in Edgeville Dungeon, and Sheldar in Zanaris. It is worth noting that while Cristelia is in Edgeville, she does not assign any tasks, though she can be used to spend Slayer points and buy items in the Slayer Shops. As a matter of fact, all Slayer Masters act the same and are accessible without restriction. Assignable tasks are based off the regions you unlock rather than your Slayer level. Misthalin has a small host of PvM encounters that may be of interest. The pair of giant bosses, Obor and Bryophyta, offer a decent way to get some early game gear and supplies. You can also find the deranged archaeologist over in the swamps of Fossil Island. While this boss doesn't drop any uniques, he does offer a chance to acquire runate limbs, which only take a couple of hours to obtain the fletching level to process. Scurious is a new addition to the region, being added just 2 weeks after the previous league ended. With many murmurings of a nerf to Soul Wars combat experience gains, Scurious may be the new meta for getting experience in your combat skills. The Scurious Spine can turn into a weapon of each combat style, meaning all players can benefit, though mage takers will be able to benefit the fastest, needing only to go buy a battle staff from Zaf. Any following spines can be handed in for experience lamps, which, at the base multiplier of 5 times, translates to 25,000 experience in all combat stats, except for prayer, which a lamp will equate to 17,500. The Abyssal Sire is the only Slayer boss in Misthalin, requiring 85 Slayer to unlock. The last boss in the Misthalin region is the Leviathan. However, as this is the only Desert Treasure 2 boss locked behind unlocking the desert, it's best to think of this as a desert unlock rather than a Misthalin. You'll also be able to fight the Abyssal Demons by going into the Nexus via the Fairy Rings. Fossil Island holds 4 different kinds of wyverns, and elemental shields are accessible for all accounts in Slayermaster shops. Over on the Isle of Souls, you'll also find some iron and blue dragons, an adequate source for dragon bones if you want to try to rush some early prayer levels. Lastly, there is the ambiguity that is tormented demons and armored zombies. It is currently unknown which region will unlock these 2 new additions to the game, but my money is on either Misthalin or Asgarnia. Misthalin makes more sense, as it is the weaker region and could definitely have more support, but we'll likely find out more in the very near future. The region also has a small handful of important shops. Right in Lumbridge, you'll find the general store, which, while overall inconsequential to your everyday gameplay, does get the slight upgrade of having a pestle and mortar, allowing you to train Herbalore immediately. Aubrey and Zaf pair up to provide you with most of your early game runes and elemental staves. Raging Echoes has the honor of being the first league to host the Elemental Magic Rebalance from back in May 2024. This easy elemental rune access could prove useful to players when hunting dragon bones for prayer or gathering good seeds from moss giants. The Champions Guild hosts a bevy of early melee and ranged combat gear. Those shops are complemented by Horvik's Armor Shop in Varrock and Pesca's Helmet Shop in Barbarian Village. There's also the Varrock Sword Shop and Delos Archery Emporium. The Lumberyard has the plank making service and offers nails, saws, and bolts of cloth to get those early construction levels in. Lastly, up in the very corner of Edgeville, you'll find Oziak, who provides access to the very costly Rune Plate Body. That leaves us with the question of training in Misthalin. The best part of starting in Misthalin is that it provides early game training options for nearly every skill. Besides the skills mentioned earlier, Misthalin has 2 agility courses accessible from level 1, 9 separate mines with every ore, multiple low-level fishing areas, a variety of good thieving training methods up to roughly level 40, multiple places to train cooking, including the Range-O-Matic 3000 from the Cook's Assistant and the Cook's Guild, access to a spinning wheel and pottery for crafting, trees from regular to yew for woodcutting, firemaking, and fletching, a hops patch, a belladonna patch, and a couple of tree patches for farming on the mainland, along with 3 hardwood tree patches on Fossil Island. And over on the Isle of Souls, you can train Hunter from the start, and then Herbivore and Birdhouses on Fossil Island. Under normal circumstances, Runecraft and Herbalore would be more difficult to train at level 1. However, Leagues gets a boosted starting level of 3 Herbalore, along with the completion of Druidic Ritual to allow you to clean herbs from the start, and level 5 Runecraft to gain access to the Water Altar, and then the Earth and Cosmic Altars shortly after. If you were to stay in Misthalin alone, it would not be unreasonable to achieve base 40s, with some skills being able to easily be trained to 60 or even 70, all at the starting experience multiplier. Note that some quests can be used for training as well. While Misthalin has a list of quests auto-completed at the start, there will still be some quests that we can do to benefit from their boosted experience rewards. The quests that will be fully completed within Misthalin are Ernest the Chicken, Imp Catcher, Misthalin Mystery, Rune Mysteries, Sheep Shearer, Shield of Arav, don't forget your partner, Vampire Slayer, and the mini-quest Daddy's Home. There's also the Museum Quiz, a mini-quest-like activity for a quick Slayer and Hunter boost. A quick note that there are 2 quests that you will be able to complete within your starter regions, but are not within Misthalin alone. Rag and Bone Man 1 requires you to kill monkeys and giant bats, both found on Karamja, and Taibo One-Eye Trio is focused almost solely in Karamja, but you will need to acquire some items to complete the quest in Misthalin. That leads us into our next region of the video, Karamja. Karamja will be unlocked by any League's account that completes the tutorial. This tutorial will appear on your screen immediately upon spawning into the game world. So in essence, you'll have two regions as soon as you start running around. The region of Karamja includes Musa Point, Brimhaven, Taibo Wanai, and Shiloh Village, as well as the Tsar city of Mor Rek. Karazi Jungle, while situated on the southern end of the island, is inaccessible unless you unlock Fremnik later on. In terms of helpful NPCs in the area, the only one of note is the Slayer Master Duradel, who sells the 99 cape. While the Agility cape is sold within Brimhaven, it unfortunately has zero practical use in Leagues, as we are provided with infinite run energy. Karamja, in my opinion, has one of the weakest, if not the weakest, PvM scenes of all the League. There's only 3 combat activities to engage in, and one does not provide any items, though will likely be a handful of League points. Mor Rek holds all these activities, starting off with the fight caves and Tiz Talk Chat. Completing the 63 wave combat minigame will award you with the Fire Cape, a great piece of melee equipment, and a suitable mage or rage back slot until you acquire something more suitable. Extending from that is the Tsarket Rax challenges, which will be immediately open to all accounts and allow you to practice facing off against multiple Jads at one time. Other than unlocking a cosmetic transmog to an Inferno pet upon completing 6 Jads, there is no useful upgrade to come from this content. Speaking of the Inferno, by sacrificing a fire cape at the heart of the volcano, you gain access to the successor of the fight caves. After the 69 waves and taking down the level 1400 Tizkalzak, you can earn the Infernal Cape, the best in slot melee cape. Tsars, wandering the fiery city, provide a great source of training for all combat styles, and they drop the main boosted rates gear for the region, the Obsidian equipment. This includes the melee gear Obsidian armor, cape, shield, maul, dagger, sword, mace, throne rings, and staff. Karamja also contains the Brimhaven dungeon, with various low to mid level combat encounters. This does include bronze through steel dragons, which provides access to the very rarely dropped boosted draconic visage. As for your shopping excursions, Karamja is fairly limited. Mor Rek contains most of your shops of interest. There are 3 sets of shops available: gem and ore shops, equipment and gear shops, and a rune shop. Of the 2 pairs, there's one in the inner and outer ring. The inner ring has more inventory, however, they both contain the same sets of items, other than the inner equipment shop containing obsidian armor. The gem and ore shop does sell an uncut onyx, which means everyone will have guaranteed access to an amulet of fury and regent bracelets, as molds can easily be obtained in the workshop room of the player owned house. Another key store is in Brimhaven, the Shrimp and Parrot food shop. This has a bunch of cooked food, including the ever important Karam. Lastly, there's a general store south of the house portal, containing a variety of helpful tools and anti-poisons. If it's skilling activities you're after, Karamja holds a few options. In terms of mining, there's no tin or copper, so you can't start there from level 1. However, there is iron through adamant ores, as well as the uniquely Karamjan gem rocks. Brimhaven holds the agility arena, which can be utilized to acquire experience and collection log slots at the same time. Mor Rek and Shiloh Village have furnaces to smelt ores, though Shiloh's does come with fee to use. There's also an anvil north of Taibo Wanai. Karamja holds a free, slow herbalore training method that will only be viable at extremely early levels by collecting grimy rogue's purse and snakeweed and cleaning them. It also has one of the League's most AFK fishing training methods, Karam Boss, which at high levels will never burn, providing incredible cooking experience rates. The Tsar offer a late game thieving training method, pickpocketing both them and their gem stalls. All gems available in the region offer your best crafting training method, along with the multiple sources of gold on the island. There's plenty of trees to chop, burn, and fletch throughout Karamja, with mahogany being the best. The island also has a fruit, spirit, and calquat tree patch. At 44 Runecraft, you'll gain access to the nature altar on the island, just north of Shiloh Village. Finally, Broomhaven has a house portal, which is where your player owned house will start, rather than in Remington. In my opinion, there's a very good reason why we started with Misthalin and Karamja in three separate region locked leagues now. Both are very early game friendly, without unlocking much crazy late or end game content, while still offering a little bit to keep you interested. If I had to put a ranking on these two regions separately, I'd put Misthalin at a C tier and Karamja at D tier. I don't think any region could truly be an F tier. They all have something of value and worth, but Karamja is definitely the worst. However, since we get these regions together essentially from the start, we can reasonably rank them together. Funny enough, I would still keep them at a C tier. To me, Karamja is almost solely a support region, and since neither of these regions will have an Echo Boss, they're even lower on the totem pole. That's it for this episode. While we're just about a month out from the start of Raging Echoes, I'll be trying to push out at least one of these a week. Next week, we'll cover Asgarnia, Caridian Desert, and Fremnik. Let me know if there's anything I missed in the comments section below. And while you're down there, drop a like and subscribe to the channel to see more League content. With that, I will see you in the next one.